Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Today is another day for another WoW video, and we will take a look at talents today for the Enhancement Shaman specifically. I might have kind of a special video planned for an Elemental Shaman build that I'm tinkering with right now. That's kind of weird and kind of good at the same time. But you guys will see that later. Today it's all about Enhance and my main spec, which is Enhance. So first of all, we're going to take a look at the leveling skill tree and what you should take into consideration. Also, down below, as you can see here, you can see the talent order, which is actually really nice for this type of leveling talent tree video. So without further ado, let's just jump right into it and get rid of the first mistake most Enhancement Shaman players make in the beginning, which is expecting you to Ancestral Knowledge. Even on high level, this isn't good. Mainly because 5% mana is at most one more ability, and most of the time it doesn't even amount to that. So outside of raiding, you don't really want this. But for leveling, you want shield specialization. Now, you might ask yourself, why the hell would I spec into shields when I'm using a two-handed staff or a two-handed axe? Unbreakable, you know? Because it's very simple, actually. Because early on, the first few levels, until you get it, you will definitely run a shield and a one-handed weapon. On top of that, though, shield one-handed weapon is one of the most efficient ways to level up. Now, I'm not saying you should just level shield and main hand, but you should definitely have one in your bag to swap to whenever you encounter multiple mobs that are hard to kite or hard to kill. Makes it a lot easier, and having the shield specialization also enables you to be a little more tankier, and you can use that in dungeons if you can't find any other tank. If you can't find anyone else, you can just say, you know what, guys? Before we don't do this dungeon, I can tank. I mean, it's not the most optimal thing ever, especially not AoE tanking, but I can pull my weight, and it can work to an extent. So speccing into this is definitely really, really good. Of course, we move on to Thundering Strikes. Now, this is, again, the first decision you really have to make. On level 20, you gain Ghost Wolf. So speccing into Ghost Wolf right now wouldn't grant you any sort of benefit on level 19. But once you get level 20, you will have it maxed. So absolutely up to you what you do here. I personally prefer leveling Thundering Strike one more time and then investing into Ghost Wolf twice, which, enables you to just enhance or cast your Ghost Wolf form a lot quicker. And until level 40, or at least until you get your mount, because a lot of people won't even get it on level 40, this is very, very important and saves you a lot of time. And you might ask yourself right now why I'm not speccing into two-handed axes and maces at the very get-go, like when you get level 20 the first time. It's very simple, because you won't be using an axe and maces for the most part until almost level 30, I want to say. Now, why is that? I mean, most of the staffs have better stats early on. There are a couple of quest staffs that are very crucial, especially the Crescent Staff from Wailing Caverns. This quest line starts in Thunderbluff, by the way, if you're interested. And this is one of the best weapons early game, especially for an Enhanced Shaman. Even warriors want this weapon. That's how good this is. So 7 stamina, 7 spirit, 7 intellect is all you want on an Enhanced Shaman, especially early on. So you'll be running this for the most part. If for some odd reason you're too fond of your two-handed axes, you can obviously spec into it. But this is the most optimal way, in my opinion. Let's move on. After that, I normally spec into Improved Lightning Shield or Anticipation. Again, a decision you have to make. Lightning Shield is consistent damage increase, and Anticipation is RNG dodge chance. Both are good. I normally tend to spec into Anticipation early on, only for leveling though, because dodging that one attack from that one mob in the open world or in a dungeon can mean life and death. So Anticipation it is for me. After that, of course, 200 axes and maces on level 24. Even though you don't really need it yet, I think down the road you will, so this is the perfect time to spec into it. After that, Flurry, absolute no-brainer. And here you have to make, not really a decision, because actually you're just gonna spec into parry. Parry is better than just having a little bit of a boost on your elemental weapons, which you will spec into right after. Now here we have a little bit of a problem. There's not really a specific point what you want to invest into here. You could spec into improved weapon totems. You could spec into enhanced totems even if you like. But I'm going for another point in anticipation. This won't be loose for very long because, as you can see, we're already level 33. And normally I would respec once I get my mount because you don't need improved Ghost Wolf form anymore. Now that depends on what level I'll get it though. So can I put another point into anticipation? Another dodge chance, another crucial dodged ability. And also, by the way, it's not only about life and death, it's also about speed. So when you dodge that one ability, you will not have to wait that long, or you won't have to spend mana on a heal, right? So it's kind of crucial to have that. After that, Weapon Mastery and Storm Strike. Absolute no-brainers again. Storm Strike is far too good to not be spec'd into outside or while leveling. So now we have this here. Now again, you have to make a little bit of a decision because the talent over here, Nature's Guidance, is really good early on because it's very hard to get your hands on early game hit items for your melee chance. But at the same time, I wouldn't spec into it at the moment because you won't be raiding. So what I normally do is spec into Convection first. Getting that crucial lower mana cost on your shocks is very big, especially for an Enhanced Shaman, also for an Elemental Shaman, of course. And afterwards, spec into Concussion, which makes it so your shocks do a little more damage, also very important. And now you get one of the best abilities or the best spec points you will ever have, which is Elemental Focus. Basically has a 10% chance to refund an entire ability on your next cast, mana-wise, which is of course huge for just going fast, not drinking water, you know? Makes it a lot easier if you get this proc. And 10% is actually pretty good, pretty big, right? After you hit a spell. Now again, I would go into Reverberation. I think this is one of the best talents in the entire game for Enhanced Shaman, or for Shaman in general. It's very good for PvP, very good for PvE, especially if you're just still questing. As you can see, having low cooldowns on your shocks makes it easier to kill mobs faster, of course. And then I would get into Elemental Devastation. Now you have a lot of options. It's at this point, I would always say it's up to you, but Elemental Devastation is really nice just to get that a little bit of a bonus whenever you crit. It's very nice, and it gives you a little bit of a boost, a little bit of a buff that you can play around, right? It's also kind of fun to me, to be honest. And now we are at the last point. This last point is, again, up to you, but I normally would spec into Elemental Warding just to have a little bit more, well, effective HP / defensiveness. But at this point in time, you should have already respec'd anyway. This is all just for show, I guess. So this is the leveling talent tree. This will change completely once we get into the other stuff. So let's jump right over. We just talked about how Ancestral Knowledge isn't that great of a talent, but here we are, spec'd into Ancestral Knowledge. This is the rating talent tree, and let's take a look what this is all about. Ancestral Knowledge, as you can see, 5% maximum mana. Will not amount to much of a damage increase, but will allow you to probably have 1 or 2 more totems up overall throughout the entire fight, which is great. It's definitely better than shield specializations because you're not supposed to get hit in a raid, right? That's the tank's job. So speccing into shield specialization is really useless here. On top of that, you will never use a shield in a one-hander in a raid. You will probably always be using a Nightfall Axe, which debuffs your target. In this case, a raid boss, hopefully. On top of that, we spec into Thundering Strikes again, a no-brainer, and also Guardian Totems. Guardian Totems is also just for me because I need that 2-second off of Grounding Totem if anyone ever attacks me. In an open world scenario, I like it. Otherwise, you can just spec into Improved Lightning Shield. Even Anticipation if you want it, or Improved Ghost Wolf, it doesn't really matter. These 2 points don't matter right now, at least they don't. Then we spec into Enhancing Totems because you want to have stronger Strength of Earth Totems and Grace of Air Totems. Grace of Air, of course, for totem twisting. And two-hand axes and maces, again, a no-brainer. Then we move on to Flurry, also a no-brainer as always. This is obviously mandatory, you don't need armor in a raid. Then we will move into elemental weapons, parry, and improved weapon totems. This is again crucial to have because this is basically your main reason why you even enter the raid in the first place. Is because of your Wind Fury totem and your Grace of Air plus Strength of Air totem for your warriors, or rogues I guess, most of the time warriors, which you totem twist around. So you spec into that and also into Weapon Mastery, increase your damage dealt with all weapons by 10%. Now, this is the crucial point. Speccing into Stormstrike is not necessary for raiding because the raid has a limited amount of debuff slots, a raid boss, and since you have 40 people in a raid, there are more important debuffs to have. Now, I thought about like just running, I don't know, 10 Enhancement Shamans and 10 Elemental Shamans or something crazy like that, and maybe this could work. But in a normal raid scenario, you don't need Stormstrike. Keep in mind, this is only for raiding. Then we spec into Tidal Focus. Normally, you're not supposed to heal anyone because you need your mana for totem twisting, but if in some situation your heal is required, this is good to have. On top of that, we will get Totemic Focus, which is the most crucial ability here almost. Reduces the mana cost of your totems by 25%. Absolutely big, huge for your totem twisting and 100% necessary. Then we spec into Nature's Guidance again. Very important to have some melee hit chance early on, especially because you won't get a lot of loot that has melee hit chance on it, unless you want to go out of your way, which is of course not what we want. And last but not least, Totemic Mastery. Also the most crucial one of the most crucial ones, just so your warriors and rogues or whatever is in your group can move around a little more freely, I would say, right? Always good to have. Now, all of these other ones that I'm showing you now, the last 6 talent points that we've spent are, well, free to use whatever you want with, really. Improved reincarnations, of course, nice if you wipe a lot of raids, or even in the open world when you grind something or whatever, and just you can revive more often with your reincarnation, which is obviously great to have. You can also spec into Ancestral Healing here, or even Healing Grace, Healing Focus, or even Restorative Totems, but I think this one is probably the most universal. Same with Convection. You won't really be using a lot of shocks in a raid, because as I said before, you need all your mana for totem twisting. But in the off chance that you do take some shocks in there, or weave some shocks into your rotation, this is nice to have. Reduces the mana of them. You could also take one here off and put it in here, for example. It's all possible. And that's your raiding setup. Again, very bare bones, very basic, but I hope this gives you an understanding of what you want, because you will basically just sit there, do auto attacks, twist your totems, and hope that your Nightfall procs and your Wind Fury procs, right? So here we are, and let's move on to the PvP talent tree. After a gruesome talent tree in the raiding one that didn't even spec into Stormstrike, we'll now spec into Stormstrike. First off, though, we will spec into Shield Specialization again. In this scenario, it's really good against anything that's physical damage, really. Gives you that little bit of an edge, and you should always run one-hand shield against like warriors and rogues and so on, since it will really, really make the matchup a lot easier on you, and you don't have to just focus on that Wind Fury proc, that lucky one. So this is really good. After that, we spec into Thundering Strikes, improved Lightning Shield. Here as well, you can also put this into Anticipation if you really want to, but I would rather have some consistent Lightning Shield damage, and also you can't dodge spells. So yeah, it would be amazing to have this when you fight a mage, right? Wouldn't be amazing? So improved Lightning Shield it is. And of course, Guardian Totems, absolutely big. 2-second lower cooldown on your grounding totem is crucial, and the 20% increase for Stone Skin and Wind Wall can also make a difference. Also, two-hand axes and maces, of course, Flurry, Elemental Weapons, Parry, Weapon Mastery, and Stormstrike, of course. All of these are no-brainers, crucial abilities to have, and they make your Shaman hit a lot harder. Now we spec into Elemental, even though early on it could be better to spec into Nature's Guidance, even for PvP. but you get rid of a lot of skill points here just to get there, so it might not be worth it even early on. So I'm speccing into Convection, lowering the mana cost of your shocks, and Concussion, which does more damage for your shocks and Chain Lightnings and Lightning Bolt. Now, Chain Lightning is pretty much the only lightning ability I'm normally using. You can also, of course, have a Lightning Bolt on your hotbar. Just if you're in a Frost Nova, you press some ranged abilities to kill a mage from range or something. It's always good to have. Score is not a normal toolkit, but it's definitely used in certain scenarios. But you mainly get these for the shocks. Then we spec into Reverberation, of course crucial again, Earth Shock, 1 second lower cooldown, absolutely amazing, and Elemental Focus. You will run out of mana on PvP too, by the way, it's not only in PvE. So having this is also really nice. On top of Eye of the Storm, which allows you to heal yourself, or even maybe cast a Chain Lightning or something without getting interrupted. I mean, you can still get it kicked or something, but the interruption from normal attacks or spells will not be there anymore. This one, though, Eye of the Storm is more of a defensive option. There's also a more offensive or aggressive option, which is Elemental Devastation. Can be used as well, is used by a lot of shamans. I think Eye of the Storm is better and more consistent, but I would rather, if you would play a little bit more aggressively, this is definitely an option for you. And the last talent point we spec into Elemental Warding, just to have that little bit of an edge in matchups where you fight someone with Fire, Frost, or Nature damage. Always pretty good to have. Not needed, you can spec this anywhere else, but this is pretty good. Here is the PvP spec, and lastly, we'll take a look at a little bit of a mixture between PvP and PvE, if you don't want to respec whenever you raid or whenever you do PvP, right? So let's just jump right into that one. And here we are. The last but not least, the overall universal talent tree if you want to do raiding and PvP without having to respec. Now, as you can see already, this looks a lot more like the PvE skill tree than the PvP one, just because we didn't spec into Elemental, but this is definitely crucial to have, and you get all of the important things for PvE, and you get most of the important things for PvP. So let's get started. Again, Ancestral Knowledge, you don't need shield specialization or raid, so if you would, we would take this, but Ancestral Knowledge can be used in both scenarios, so here we go. Again, Thundering Strikes, Grounding Totems, again, crucial to have. If you spec into Enhancement Tree, you should always get this for PvP, it's just too good. Enhancing Totems for raiding, to end axes and maces, Flurry, Elemental Weapons, and Improved Weapon Totems again for raiding only. Parry, Weapon Mastery, and Storm Strike is in this case only for PvP, unless your raid allows you to use it, which doesn't really make that much of sense, but still, we have Storm Strike for PvP in here. If your raid doesn't allow you to use it because they need the debuff slot, you just don't use it. You know, it's that simple, but you need it for PvP. This ability is big for PvP, one of the only Enhancement Shaman ability, really, right? So you do need it in PvP. Then we spec into Tidal Focus, Totemic Focus, and Totemic Mastery again, and of course Nature's Guidance, a no-brainer. Especially early on, this build could work very well for PvP as well. Just so you have the melee hit chance on both your PvP and PvE targets. Very important. It's more important for PvE though, because you need a higher hit chance, because raid bosses are higher level. And last but not least, we of course go into Convection again. Good for PvP, good for PvE. If you do use some shocks, 10% lower mana is big, and especially in PvP you can use this as well. This is probably the build that I will be running when Vanilla releases or when Classic releases. So I'll be looking forward to you guys testing some builds out as well. If you have any improvement options, any opinions, please leave them down below in the comment section. And I hope I see you guys in the next video. Thank you for watching and have a nice day. Goodbye.